The NFL is back. Training camps are starting up. So today, I'm going to be looking at the Eagles training camp, look at their roster, some position battles that are going to be happening during training camp, and my thoughts on who I think is going to win, who's going to stand out. Anyways, let's go ahead and get right into it. The first big position battle that I think is the most glaring one on the entire team is wide receiver 3. We got Devontae Smith, wide receiver 2, AJ Brown, wide receiver 1, or just put them whatever order you want, but those are your top 2 receivers. And then for wide receiver 3, there's going to be a big training camp battle. We got Paris Campbell, formerly on the Giants last year, the Colts before that. We got John Ross trying to make a comeback after not really doing much after being a first-round pick. We got Anais Smith and Johnny Wilson, the 2 rookies competing. And then we got guys like Britton Covey, who's been on the roster as a returner the last couple years, and Joseph Ngata is a dude a lot of people hyping up as a UDFA last year. So those are kind of all the dudes competing for that spot. If you had to tell me right now who I think is going to win the slot receiver or third receiver battle, I think it's going to be Paris Campbell just because he's a proven vet. He's been in the league. I don't think he brings anything special to the table, but he's going to understand defenses, understand the playbook better, and have the advantage on the rookies. But I don't think he's the best player. I would love to see a John Ross renaissance, man. If I could choose one of these to be a good receiver 3 and have a huge season, it would be John Ross. I would love to see that. But I don't think that's going to happen. John Ross would be fun, but I think it starts off, like I said, Paris Campbell. But I think by the end of the year, I think one of Anais Smith or Johnny Wilson is going to kind of step up and be that third receiver. They bring a lot of very different elements. The 2, Anais Smith, more of your gadget kind of guy, really good run after the catch, like kind of like a return guy. You get that out of him, and then Johnny Wilson is a humongous human being with one of the longest wingspans in the NFL. So there's 2 different elements, but I can see both of them. One of them hopefully stepping up and making it, but I think it's going to be a lot of Paris Campbell, sadly, early on. Next up, the next position I want to get to is right guard. Pretty much every other position on the O-line is set in stone. We got Landon Dickerson, Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, Cam Jurgens, and then there's the right guard. Right now, Tyler Steen is probably the front runner for the right guard, but behind him, it's really not too much competition, which is why I'm like Tyler Steen's there, but behind Tyler Steen, we're looking at, you got Matt Hennessy, who came over from Atlanta. You got Trevor Keegan, rookie out of Michigan. And then Mekhi Becton played some guard during initial minicamp. I don't know if he's going to be a right guard. I think he's more of a tackle backup, but they've been playing him at guard, so he could be a guy we're playing at guard. I think Tyler Steen, kind of like the receiver, I think he's going to get the job. The Eagles picked him in the 3rd round last year. They spent decent capital on him. They were hoping maybe like the right tackle of the future behind Lane Johnson, but they kind of need him to play guard now. So I think he steps in and plays guard. But if he doesn't play well, a guy like Matt Hennessy has playing experience in the league, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's just like a stopgap. Trevor Keegan, I like the upside, but he's a rookie. I don't really expect anything from him. And then we got to get to Mekhi Becton, he's almost like just the swing lineman on this team other than center. It sounds like he's played almost every position other than center during minicamp. So it'll be interesting during training camp to see if they keep playing him everywhere, if he gets snaps at guard, gets snaps at tackle, or if he's just more of like a pure guard or pure tackle. So it would be, I'm really curious to see how they use Mekhi Becton, because he is a humongous man that shouldn't be playing guard. But if anyone can get him to play guard at a high level, it's Jeff Stoutland. So I don't know what to do with him, but if I got to guess, Tyler Steen starts, Mekhi Becton is our swing tackle, and then Matt Hennessy is our, if someone gets hurt, your safety, plug him in and play. And then I think Trevor Keegan is just somewhere in the background. I don't think he's going to have a lot of playing time as a rookie, although he is a pretty pro-ready rookie coming from Michigan, so I don't think it's huge, but that's where I lean there. Next up, a smaller position battle. We got tight end 2. Right now, Dallas Goedert is the tight end 1, but then tight end 2 is kind of a little bit of a battle. We got Grant Calcaterra, who the Eagles drafted 2 years ago, who hasn't really done much to prove anything in the last couple years. Then we got CJ Uzama, who signed with the Eagles this offseason, former Bengal and Jet, I believe. And then we got Albert Aquabanon, who the Eagles just sent like a 7th-round pick for last year from the Denver Broncos. So we got those 3 dudes. If I'm doing it like before, I think CJ Uzama is the safe number 2 tight end. I think he's a good tight end. I think he's a solid number 2 tight end. I'm not upset about that. But like receiver, how I said, I'd love to see John Ross come on. I would love to see Albert Aquabanon, because he is a freak athlete. And if Albert O can live up to that athleticism, he could be a really interesting tight end for this team. So I'd love to see Albert O come on and be that tight end too, but I think it's going to be CJ Uzoma. and Alberto and Grant Calcaterra will fight for that tight end 3, and I wouldn't be surprised if Alberto wins that just because that freak athleticism, how he loves his athletes. They're going to keep banking on that potentially down the future as something we can see. Finishing off the offense, it's not really a position battle, but just looking at QB2, they obviously traded what they traded for Kenny Pickett to be QB2, so I think it's almost a guarantee he's going to be QB2, but don't be surprised if Tanner McKee starts balling out in training camp and preseason, and there's talks about him being the number 2 behind Kenny Pickett. And I think he could be a better player than Kenny Pickett, but with the assets they give up for Kenny Pickett, best case scenario, Tanner McKee balls in the preseason, some team with tons of quarterback issues sends us like a late pick for Tanner McKee. That would be the dream scenario, but I think it's going to be Hurts, Pickett, and McKee will also be on the roster. We got Will Grier in there too. He's gonna ball in the preseason. That's just what Will Grier does. So when Will Grier has an insane preseason game, don't look too much into it. That's just kind of what he does. Moving on, that's pretty much the rest of the offense. And then the defense is where we have a lot of questions. Looking at the defense, we're starting in the defense with the D tackles are pretty set. Davis and Carter starting. You got Milton Williams behind them and Tui Pelotu as another dude behind them. That's pretty set. I like Moro Ojomo too as a dude who can play this year. He had very promising snaps as a rookie. He's going to be in there. Edge rusher. It's going to be Sweat and Bryce Huff. I mean, Bryce Huff, you don't pay him that money to not start, so he's starting. Sweat is obviously starting. And then you got Brandon Graham and Nolan Smith rotating in off the edge with Jalix Hunt kind of being that next guy up. Probably. Patrick Johnson's still on the team. He could have that kind of fourth edge rusher role in case of like an injury. But it'll be interesting to see what Jalix Hunt. I think he's going to flash in the preseason, but he's going to take a year or two to really be a guy that can play for us. So don't be looking too much into that. But now is where it gets interesting on defense. We got the linebackers. Who is starting at linebacker? They're going to probably run out 2 linebackers. So we're not looking at 3 starting linebackers. We're looking for 2. And if we're looking at who we got, Devin White is starting. We did not pay Devin White. Was it $15 million or something? We did not pay. I don't even know. I don't remember what the contract was. But whatever we paid Devin White, we did not pay him that money to not start. So Devin White is a solidified starter in my mind. And then the second starting linebacker is between Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean. And they're a bit interesting because Zach Bond came over. He thought he was an edge. We thought he was an edge. They're playing him at off-ball linebacker. Supposedly he was one of Vic Fangio's like, hey, go get this guys in the offseason. So Fangio loves him. But then also at the same time, Nakobe Dean has the 3rd-round pick from the Eagles. He's been on the Eagles for a couple years. So I don't know who's going to start. If I had to bet money right now, I'm betting Zach Bond starts, and then Nakobe Dean is our next 3rd linebacker. But I could see it really going either way. Nakobe Dean is just such a smart player, so like pairing him with a guy like Devin White, where like he can kind of help Devin White with where to go, because that's one of the things Devin White struggled was just like where to be in a lot of plays, and Nakobe Dean is like one of the smartest players on the football field, so he could be a really nice compliment to Devin White. But I think it's gonna be Zach Bond. If anything in minicamp was true, Zach Bond is gonna be our second starting linebacker. Another dude I want to mention, or another 3 dudes I have to mention. We got Oren Burks, who was San Francisco linebacker last year. He replaced what's his name in the Super Bowl, Dre Greenlaw. He was his replacement in the Super Bowl once Greenlaw got hurt. So Oren Burks is a dude who's interesting name. He's not going to start this season, but don't be surprised if down the season he starts making some plays and people are calling for him to play if our linebackers are struggling. I like the talent. Ben Van Suren was the freak athlete, somehow started games for us last year. I don't expect much from him other than special teams, but never know, could have a big rise. And we also got Jeremiah Trotter, who probably is not going to play much, more of a special teamer, but legendary father. Great to see him on the team, but I just don't think he's going to have much of an impact, at least for like 2 or 3 years. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to see, if there's anyone on this team I'd love to see succeed, it'd be Trotter Jr., but he's a small, unathletic linebacker, which just isn't usually a great combination, but maybe he'll make it work and prove me wrong. I hope he does. Moving on, we got corner, which is my favorite position battle. I think this is my favorite one to look at. I think Darius Slay is locked in at corner 1, but when we're looking at corner 2, there's a little bit of a battle here. You got the first name you got to mention with corner 2 is Quinyon Mitchell. The Eagles spent a first-round pick on him. He was like a fringe top 10, top 15 dude on most people's boards in the draft. I I think he's a dude that could start day one. So he's the first guy you have to mention for that corner two. The next guy we got to mention is Isaiah Rodgers. He was on the Colts, had a gambling thing, got suspended for a year. Eagles stashed him last year on the roster. He's been, king of the workout videos. He's like the Ben Simmons of workout videos in the NFL. But he can actually play. So he supposedly had a really good mini camp. It'll be interesting to see Isaiah Rodgers. He's a guy that a lot of people are really high on, a lot of fans, I should say. So he's probably the next guy I got to mention. And then after that, we got Keely Ringo, who, I thought he was pretty promising. He was kind of a guy, kind of a first-round pick, and then had some injury, had some issues in the draft process, fell to the Eagles in the third round. Last year, he kind of came on near the end of the season, started playing, and I thought he looked promising, man. I thought he was better than James Bradbury and Eli Ricks, other dudes that were playing last year. I thought, other than Slate, he was the best guy out there. So he looked pretty promising. And then from what I heard, he had an incredible mini camp. So if he keeps this up in training camp, Keely Ringo could easily be the starting corner too. I mean, he was getting praise from AJ. I mean, AJ Brown praised everyone, but like he was getting praise from these receivers and stuff that like he was looking really good. We know he has the athleticism. It's really just more the actual playing corner that the questions are. So I mean, do that. Keely Ringo, if he puts it together, that could be a scary guy on the outside. So those are my main guys. One of those three guys is probably going to be starting between Rodgers, Mitchell, and Keely Ringo. But just because you have to mention them, other names to keep your eye on. Cooper DeJean, obviously the Eagles' second-round pick. I think he's going to be more of a safety slot to start. I think he can play outside, but I just think we have a lot more outside corners, whereas we don't have a lot of nickel corners, so I think he can thrive in that nickel corner. So I think that's where DeJean slots in, but he could play outside. I'm not one of those guys that thinks he can't play outside. I do think he can. I just think he'll be better served this year for the Eagles in the slot. Eli Ricks, the UDFA hero of last year that everyone loved, another guy I have to mention. Those are really all. I'm surprised Bradbury's still on the roster, honestly. I doubt he starts. Zach McPherson is a dude on the roster bubble. Wouldn't be surprised if he's gone. Josh Jobe, another dude kind of on the roster bubble. He got his shot last year and didn't really impress. He wasn't awful, but he didn't really impress. So that's where I'm looking at the corner. Like I said, if I had to bet right now, let me quickly mention nickel corner. Right now they have a Avonte Maddox listed as on the Outliers depth chart, but I saw Avonte Maddox was getting safety reps. I think DeJean is going to be our starting nickel corner. So right now, if I had to predict the Eagles' starting corners, we got Darius Slay on the outside. I feel most comfortable about. DeJean starting in the slot, I feel second most comfortable about. He's also DeJean, from everything we've heard, super smart guy. He'll pick up the defense. I know Vic Fangio has a complicated defense, but I think he'll pick it up. And then at that right cornerback, honestly, I'd love to see Quinyon Mitchell, but like I just mentioned, very complicated defense for the Vic Fangio scheme. Rookies might take longer to get into it. I'm going to shoot my shot and say Keely Ringo starts outside Darius Slay. I'm going to go Darius Slay, Keely Ringo, and Cooper DeJean are our starting corners. Quinyon Mitchell would be my first guy off the bench if anything happens on the outside. And then Isaiah Rodgers after that. I think Isaiah Rodgers should try playing slot. He's never played slot, but he's got kind of a slot size. He's super athletic. I wouldn't be surprised if they try Isaiah Rodgers in the slot, especially with, like I said, how much competition there is at that outside corner. But I'm going Keely Ringo. I'm shooting my shot. Let me know in the comments who you think is going to start at outside corner. I think Slay is locked in. Who do you think is going to be? Isaiah Rodgers, Quinyon Mitchell, or Keely Ringo? Or shoot your shot with Cooper DeJean. Let me know who you think it is. But like I said, I am going with Keely Ringo as my shot for that. And then safeties are pretty set at Reed and CJ starting, in my opinion. Sidney Brown probably isn't going to start the season after his injury, so he'll be a dude that kind of comes on later in the season. And Avonte Maddox is kind of that swing guy where if any bad injuries happen, he can play nickel, or they were training him at safety, it looks like, during minicamp, so anywhere there. Anyways, I'm looking forward to this training camp. I'll go ahead and, before we go, give one guy. I want to pick, there's always like one guy that kind of comes out of nowhere and, balls in training camp. Well, he's not good, but there's one guy who's going to be all over your Twitter feed with, oh my God, this guy's balling. This guy's balling. Look at this clip. Look at this clip from him. And if I had to pick anyone on this team that's going to have those clips, my bet for that person is going to be Milton Williams. I think Milton Williams is going to be incredible. He like every year he's gotten better and better, and he's just underrated. I think Milton Williams would start on most teams in the NFL, but we got Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. But I think Milton Williams is going to have an incredible preseason, and I think he's going to really up his value as like a starting caliber D tackle that just won't start because of the depth the Eagles have. Anyways, let me know your candidates for who you think is going to be a huge breakout guy, and that's all on Twitter for the Eagles training camp. Let me know any other predictions you have, and get ready for the season because it's coming, and I'll see you guys for the next one. Thanks for watching.